The Battle of Sol ended not with humanity's surrender, but with the complete annihilation of the Galactic Confederation's fleet. Of the 12,000 vessels that had entered human space with such confidence, fewer than 200 escaped to carry word of their defeat back to their home worlds. The survivors fled in damaged ships, their crews traumatized by an encounter with warfare beyond their comprehension. Admiral Zexathara was not among the survivors. His flagship had been destroyed when Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes and his team reached the bridge, detonating charges that tore the massive vessel apart from within. The alien admiral's final transmission was a warning to his home government. Humanity was not the primitive species they had believed. Admiral Lisa Bradley stood before the United Earth Assembly in Geneva, addressing representatives from every human colony and nation. The Great Hall was packed with leaders who had just learned that their species had achieved the impossible. They had defeated the galaxy's most powerful military force using superior tactics and preparation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Bradley began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had just orchestrated the greatest military victory in human history. 3 days ago, 7 galactic civilizations came to our home and demanded our surrender. They told us to abandon our colonies, submit to their authority, or face destruction. The assembly was silent, waiting for her words. "I'm here to inform you that the Galactic Confederation's ultimatum has been rejected. Their fleet has been destroyed, and now, for the first time in human history, we're going to take our fight to them." Behind Bradley, massive displays showed the aftermath of the battle. Debris from alien ships drifted through the Sol system, being collected by human salvage teams. The wreckage contained technology that would advance human science by decades, but more importantly, it contained intelligence data about the galaxy's military capabilities and political structure. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, reviewed the intelligence reports in his temporary office aboard the space station New Geneva. The information recover. The alien fleet pushed deeper into the Sol system, pursuing what they believed were the scattered remains of humanity's defenders. Admiral Zexathara felt confident as his ships passed the orbit of Mars. The human fleet had been broken, their desperate tactics had failed, and now only the final assault on Earth remained. He had lost nearly 4,000 vessels, but that was an acceptable price for conquering an entire species. The asteroid belt stretched ahead of them, a cloud of rocks and debris that would provide the last hiding place for human survivors. Zexathara's tactical displays showed no significant military presence among the asteroids. His sensors detected only mining operations and civilian installations that had been abandoned during the human retreat. Colonel Ben Parker watched the alien fleet's approach from his command center deep beneath Luna's surface. For 20 years, he had prepared for this moment. The asteroid belt wasn't just a collection of rocks. It was the largest weapons platform in human history, disguised as a mining operation. "All stations report ready," Lieutenant Colonel Amy Rodriguez announced from her position at the tactical console. "The enemy fleet is entering the primary kill zone." Parker nodded and activated the communication channel to every hidden installation in the system. "All units, this is Luna Base. Execute Operation Mousetrap." The asteroids came alive. What the aliens had assumed were abandoned mining platforms revealed themselves as weapons installations. Massive railguns emerged from concealed positions, their barrels targeting the alien fleet with precision that spoke of decades of preparation. Energy weapons charged with power drawn from fusion reactors hidden in the asteroid cores. Admiral Zexathara had less than 30 seconds to realize his mistake before the belt opened fire. thousands of projectiles launched from hidden positions, traveling at significant fractions of light speed. The aliens' energy shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, couldn't handle the kinetic energy of tungsten rods accelerated by magnetic fields. The alien flagship shuddered as impacts tore through its hull. Emergency alarms filled the bridge as damage reports flooded in from across the fleet. Ships that had survived the running battle with human forces found themselves trapped in a crossfire from weapons they hadn't even known existed. "All ships, emergency evasion," Zexathara commanded, but there was nowhere to run. The asteroid field extended in every direction, and each rock potentially hid more weapons. General Krixtar struggled to understand the tactical situation. "Admiral, these aren't random mining installations. This entire region has been converted into a weapons platform. The humans have been preparing this trap for decades." The alien fleet tried to fight back, but their weapons were designed for ship-to-ship combat. The hidden installations were built into solid rock, protected by natural armor that could absorb tremendous punishment. Worse, destroying an asteroid only created more debris that masked other hidden positions. Mars revealed its secrets as the aliens tried to escape the asteroid ambush. The planet's 2 moons suddenly came alive with weapons fire, their surfaces concealing military installations that had been disguised as research stations. Automated fighter swarms launched from hidden bays, piloted by artificial intelligence that had learned tactics from humanity's greatest military minds. The fighters moved like living creatures, adapting their attack patterns in real time. They used swarm tactics that overwhelmed alien point defense systems, coordinating their attacks with a precision that no organic pilot could match. Each fighter was small and expendable, but together they created a storm of destruction that tore through alien formations. Colonel Helen Brooks coordinated the ground-based defenses from her command center in the Rocky Mountains. Her display showed alien landing parties attempting to reach Earth's surface, thinking they could bypass the space battle by capturing the planet directly. They discovered that Earth itself had been turned into a fortress. Automated defense systems emerged from hidden positions across every continent. What had appeared to be civilian infrastructure revealed its true nature as military installations. Office buildings opened to reveal missile launchers. Highway tunnels became weapons positions. Even the communications satellites in orbit carried hidden armaments. The alien landing forces found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. Human defenders appeared from underground positions, struck hard, and disappeared before retaliation could arrive. The planet's entire population had been prepared for this invasion, with civilian shelters that doubled as weapons caches and communication networks that couldn't be disrupted. Captain Morrison's surviving ships emerged from behind Saturn, where they had hidden using the planet's rings as camouflage. The alien fleet was now scattered throughout the inner system, exactly where human planners had wanted them. Morrison's vessels no longer looked like desperate survivors. They moved with the precision of predators closing in for the kill. "All ships begin final approach," Morrison announced to his fleet. "Remember, we've got friends inside their ships." The human vessels that had surrendered earlier suddenly revealed their true purpose. The boarding parties that had seemed defeated and demoralized activated hidden weapons and began sabotaging alien ships from within. Emergency bulkheads sealed, life support systems failed, and weapons turned on their own vessels as human infiltrators took control of critical systems. Admiral Zexathara found his own flagship under assault from within as human prisoners fought their way toward the bridge. His security forces were trained for crowd control and police actions, not combat against soldiers who had spent their lives preparing for war. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes led the assault on the alien flagship from inside its detention center. His team included volunteers who had allowed themselves to be captured specifically for this mission. They fought with weapons smuggled aboard in false medical implants and equipment that looked harmless to alien scanners. "Move fast, people," Hayes ordered as his team fought through the alien corridors. "We need to reach their command center before they can coordinate a response." The aliens had superior technology, but they had no experience with close quarters combat. Their weapons were designed for ceremonial use or crowd control. The humans fought with military rifles, explosives, and 20 years of tactical training. Dr. Amanda Foster's Project Lazarus activated throughout the solar system. What the aliens had thought were desperate human defenses revealed themselves as components of an integrated network that turned the entire Sol system into a single, massive weapon. Every installation, every ship, every satellite began working in perfect coordination. The gravity mines that Colonel Parker had spent decades positioning throughout the system came online. These devices created localized gravitational anomalies that trapped enemy vessels in killing fields while human ships navigated through safe corridors that had been carefully mapped. Alien vessels found themselves caught in gravitational whirlpools that made maneuvering impossible. Their ships were pulled into predetermined positions where human weapons could achieve maximum effectiveness. The aliens' superior technology became useless when they couldn't control where their ships went. Admiral Bradley coordinated the entire battle from her command post beneath the Rocky Mountains. Her displays showed the systematic destruction of the alien fleet as humanity's trap closed around them. Each component of the defense network had been designed to work with every other component, creating a synergy that multiplied their effectiveness. "All stations, report status," Bradley ordered. The responses came from throughout the system. Luna, base reported alien casualty rates at 70% and climbing. Mars Command confirmed that automated fighters had eliminated most enemy landing craft. The asteroid belt installations were systematically destroying trapped alien vessels. Captain Morrison's fleet closed in on the surviving alien ships, which were now trapped between the asteroid weapons, automated fighters, gravity mines, and human saboteurs. The aliens who had entered the Sol system expecting an easy victory found themselves fighting for survival against an enemy that had prepared for this battle since first contact. Admiral Zexathara watched his fleet die on tactical displays that showed the true scope of humanity's preparation. This wasn't a desperate last stand by a primitive species. This was a carefully orchestrated trap that had been 20 years in the making. The humans had allowed themselves to appear weak while building a defensive network that turned their entire star system into a weapon. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we've lost 85% of our forces. Remaining ships are requesting permission to retreat." Zexathara stared at the display showing the destruction of the largest fleet in galactic history. These humans had done something that should have been impossible. They had defeated superior technology using superior planning, superior tactics, and a willingness to fight that surpassed anything in galactic experience. The trap had been sprung and the galaxy's greatest military force was being systematically destroyed by the species they had come to conquer. The alien armada entered the Sol system like a storm front rolling across peaceful skies. 12,000 vessels moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with energy shields and advanced armor. Admiral Zexathara stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as human defensive positions appeared on his tactical displays. The enemy fleet was exactly where intelligence had predicted, scattered across Jupiter's orbit in what appeared to be a desperate attempt to protect the inner A system. Captain Jake Morrison commanded the human fleet from the bridge of the ESS Retribution. Around him, 800 human vessels took their positions in formations that looked confused and disorganized to alien observers. His crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing weapons systems that appeared primitive but carried 20 years of human innovation. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes studied the incoming alien fleet on his tactical display. "Sir, they're maintaining standard attack formations, textbook Galactic Confederation battle doctrine." Morrison nodded, watching as the massive alien force approached. Every movement they made followed patterns that human intelligence had studied for decades. The Galactic Confederation had achieved peace by making warfare predictable. They used the same tactics, the same formations, the same approaches that had worked for thousands of years. It made them powerful, but also vulnerable to an enemy that refused to follow the rules. "All ships, prepare for initial contact," Morrison announced over the fleet communication channel. "Remember, we need to look desperate but determined. Make them think we're fighting for our lives." Admiral Zexathara opened a communication channel to the human fleet. His image appeared on Morrison's screen, surrounded by the technological marvels of his command bridge. "Captain Morrison, this is your final opportunity to surrender. You are outnumbered 15 to 1. Your weapons are primitive compared to our technology. Submit now, and we will allow your species to survive." Morrison looked directly at the alien admiral and smiled the same smile that had unsettled Zexathara months earlier. "Admiral, you came a long way just to ask the same question. The answer is still no." The transmission ended, and Zexathara turned to his tactical officer. "Begin the demonstration. Destroy their forward scouts." 3 human vessels had positioned themselves ahead of the main fleet, apparently as early warning pickets. They were small ships, lightly armed, with crews of less than 50 each. To the aliens, they represented perfect targets for showing human forces what Confederation technology could do. The alien flagship's main weapon charged with energy that bent space around it. When it fired, the beam crossed the distance between fleets in seconds and struck the lead human ship. The vessel vanished in a flash of light that briefly outshone Jupiter itself. The second and third ships died just as quickly. Their destruction broadcast across all frequencies so every human could witness the power they faced. Morrison watched his ships die and felt genuine anger. Those were good people, volunteers who had known they wouldn't survive the opening exchange. Their sacrifice served a purpose, but that didn't make it easier to watch. "All ships, begin withdrawal to secondary positions. Make it look panicked." The human fleet scattered as if the destruction of their scouts had broken their formation. Ships fired their engines at maximum power, racing toward the inner system in what appeared to be a desperate retreat. Some vessels released debris clouds to mask their withdrawal. Others transmitted distress calls on open channels. Admiral Zexathara watched the human retreat with satisfaction. "As expected, they cannot stand against our superior technology. All ships pursue and maintain pressure. We will destroy their fleet before they can reach Earth." The alien armada surged forward, confident in their technological superiority. Their ships moved in perfect coordination, using formations developed over millennia of peaceful expansion. What they didn't realize was that those same formations were exactly what human planners had prepared to exploit. Major Chris Walker commanded a squadron of 12 human vessels that had been deliberately damaged during the retreat. His ships leaked atmosphere, showed burns on their hulls, and moved with the sluggish responses of badly wounded vessels. To alien sensors, they appeared to be crippled survivors limping toward safety. Walker's tactical officer, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, monitored the alien pursuit. "Major, they're taking the bait. 3 enemy squadrons are moving to finish us off." Walker nodded and opened a channel to his squadron. His pilots included men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Captain Kevin Nash, Lieutenant Tony Brooks, Commander Lisa Parker, and 9 others who understood what they had volunteered for. "All right, people, this is what we've trained for. We get one chance to show these aliens what humans do when someone threatens our home. Make it count." The damaged human ships suddenly changed course, turning directly toward the pursuing alien. Vessels. What had appeared to be a desperate escape became a coordinated attack as Walker's squadron accelerated to ramming speed. The alien commanders had seconds to react. Their ships were designed for long-range engagement using superior technology. They had energy shields that could stop conventional weapons and armor that could survive most attacks. What they didn't have was experience dealing with enemies who were willing to die to destroy them. Walker's ship struck the lead alien vessel at a significant fraction of light speed. The impact tore through energy shields like they were made of paper and punched completely through the alien hull. The explosion that followed destroyed both ships and damaged 3 others. Lieutenant Rodriguez's vessel rammed the second alien ship, her final transmission a single word: "Remember." Captain Nash took out a 3rd enemy vessel, his ship's reactor, overloading in a controlled detonation that vaporized everything within 1,000 kilometers. In less than 5 minutes, Walker's squadron had ceased to exist. They had also destroyed or crippled an entire alien battle group using tactics that no Confederation species had ever encountered. Admiral Zexathara stared at his tactical display in confusion. What just happened? His tactical officer was equally bewildered. "Sir, they used their ships as weapons. They sacrificed themselves to destroy our vessels. But that makes no tactical sense. They traded 12 ships for 8 of ours." General Krikstar approached the display table, his compound eyes reflecting the tactical information. "Admiral, these humans are not following standard military doctrine. They're willing to accept casualties that would cripple any civilized species." The alien fleet continued its pursuit, but their confidence had been shaken. The human retreat looked chaotic and desperate, but every ship they destroyed cost them more vessels than it should have. Human captains used ramming attacks, suicide, runs, and weapons fired at impossible angles. They fought like a species that had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Captain Morrison coordinated the fighting retreat from his command bridge. His ships were taking heavy casualties, but each loss served a purpose. The aliens were being drawn deeper into the Sol system, away from their supply lines and into terrain that humans had spent decades preparing. "Sir, we've lost 40% of the fleet," Commander Hayes reported. "But alien casualties are at 31% and rising." Morrison nodded grimly. The human fleet was dying, but they were selling their lives at a rate that shocked their enemies. More importantly, they were drawing the alien armada exactly where human planners wanted them. The battle moved deeper into the system, with human ships fighting delaying actions at every opportunity. They used asteroid fields for cover, mined passages, and coordinated attacks that looked desperate, but followed careful planning. Each engagement cost the aliens more ships than they expected. Admiral Zexathara found himself facing something he had never encountered, an enemy that fought harder as the battle progressed. Human resistance should have collapsed under the weight of superior technology and numbers. Instead, it seemed to grow stronger with each engagement. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 human vessels." Zexathara felt relief wash over him. Finally, the humans were beginning to see reason. "Accept their surrenders. Bring them aboard for processing." The surrendering human ships were taken into alien holds, their crews apparently defeated and demoralized. What the aliens didn't know was that these weren't real surrenders. They were the final phase of humanity's opening gambit, placing armed humans inside enemy vessels at the moment when the real battle was about to begin. As the alien fleet approached Mars, confident in their inevitable victory, Admiral Bradley's voice reached every human in the system on a frequency the aliens couldn't detect. "All stations, initiate Phase 2. Show them what happens when you corner a predator." 3 months later, the largest fleet in galactic history gathered at the edge of human space. 12,000 vessels from 7 different species formed a wall of metal and energy that stretched across the void. Each ship represented centuries of technological advancement and peaceful development. Together, they carried enough firepower to turn entire worlds into dust. Admiral Zexathara stood in the command center of the Confederation flagship, looking at tactical displays that showed the assembled armada. Ships from the Valonian Empire, hung next to vessels from the Krix hegemony, the Stellar Republic, and 4 other major powers. It was the first time in galactic history that so many species had united for military action. General Krixtar of the hegemony approached the display table. The insectoid alien's compound eyes reflected the light from the tactical screens as he studied the human defensive positions. "Admiral, our intelligence reports are troubling. The humans appear to be in complete chaos." Zexathara activated a holographic display showing the Sol system. Red markers indicated human military activity throughout the system. Ships moved frantically between planets, orbital platforms buzzed with construction activity, and civilian transports fled toward the outer system in apparent panic. "Look at this," Krixtar continued, pointing at the display. "They're evacuating entire cities on Earth. Their military is spread thin, trying to protect too many positions. They're building defensive installations that our weapons can destroy in seconds. It's exactly what we expected from a primitive species facing extinction." Admiral Zexathara nodded, but something bothered him about the reports. The human captain's confidence 3 months ago had been unsettling. No species facing. Annihilation should have seemed so calm, so almost eager. "What about their fleet strength?" 800 vessels, mostly converted civilian ships with military weapons bolted on. Their largest warship is less than half the size of our smallest destroyer. "Admiral, this will not be a battle. It will be an execution." Other alien commanders gathered around the display table. Admiral Vex of the Stellar Republic pointed to Earth itself. "Their planet shows signs of massive military buildup, but it's all defensive. Underground bunkers, orbital defense platforms, fighter squadrons. They're preparing for a siege." Commander Wylix from the Hegemony's Science Division brought up additional reports. "Admiral, we've intercepted their communications. They're operating on outdated military doctrine. Linear defensive positions, conventional weapons deployment, standard fleet formations. They're fighting the last war instead of this one." Zexathara studied the intelligence data, but the memory of Captain Morrison's smile kept returning. That human had not looked like someone preparing for defeat. "Are we certain of these reports?" "Completely," Krixtar replied. "Our stealth ships have been monitoring the system for weeks. The humans are exactly what they appear to be, a young, Species with primitive tactics trying to defend against superior technology and numbers. While the alien fleet prepared for what they believed would be an easy victory, the reality inside the Sol system was very different. The apparent chaos was actually precision disguised as panic. Every movement, every construction project, every seemingly desperate defensive position was part of a plan 20 years in the making. Colonel Ben Parker stood in a control room deep beneath Luna's surface, watching displays that showed the real state of humanity's defenses. Unlike the information the aliens were collecting, these screens showed the truth. The frantic ship movements were distributing weapons and supplies to hidden positions throughout the system. The civilian evacuations were moving people to safety before the real battle began. The defensive installations were not desperate last stands, but components of an integrated network. Parker had spent 2 decades preparing for this moment. When humanity first encountered the Galactic Confederation, they had immediately begun, planning for the day when diplomacy would fail. Every human colony, every space station, every asteroid mining operation had been designed with dual purposes. They appeared civilian but could transform into military assets at a moment's notice. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Rodriguez entered the command center with the latest status report. "Sir, all outer system installations report ready. The gravity mines are in position and synchronized. Project Lazarus is showing green across all parameters." Parker nodded and activated a communication channel to Earth Defense Command. Admiral Lisa Bradley appeared on screen from her command post in the Rocky Mountains. Behind her, technicians worked at stations that coordinated the entire system's defense. "Ben, what's the status on deception operations?" "Working perfectly, ma'am. The aliens are seeing exactly what we want them to see. Their intelligence shows us in complete disarray, building conventional defenses that their weapons can easily destroy." Bradley smiled grimly. "And the real preparations?" 57% complete. We need another 2 weeks to finish installation of the final network nodes. You have it. Our agents report the alien fleet won't move for at least a month. They're taking time to coordinate between 7 different military doctrines. Apparently, species that haven't fought wars in thousands of years have trouble organizing joint operations. Parker looked at his tactical displays, which showed the true defensive network spreading throughout the Sol system. What looked like random mining operations were actually weapon platforms. Civilian transport routes had been planned to create killing fields. Even the asteroids themselves had been moved over decades to create natural barriers and ambush positions. Dr. Amanda Foster worked 18-hour days in the deepest levels of Luna's military complex. Project Lazarus was humanity's greatest secret, a weapons system so advanced that even most humans didn't understand how it worked. Foster had spent her entire career developing technologies that would give humanity an edge against superior alien technology. The project was based on a simple principle that the aliens had overlooked. Every species in the galaxy used similar technologies, similar weapon systems, similar tactical approaches. They had achieved peace by becoming predictable. Humanity's advantage was that they remained unpredictable. Foster's team had reverse-engineered captured alien technology and improved it. Human weapons looked primitive from the outside, but incorporated innovations that alien engineers had never considered. Human shields appeared weak but operated on principles that enemy scanners couldn't detect. Human ships seemed slow and clumsy, but could perform maneuvers that would tear apart conventionally designed vessels. Captain Jake Morrison received his new assignment while reviewing intelligence reports on New Geneva Station. The ESS Retribution would serve as flagship for the human fleet, leading 800 vessels against 12,000. On paper, it looked like suicide. In reality, it was exactly what humanity wanted the aliens to believe. Morrison's new tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes, brought him the latest deployment orders. Hayes was young but had trained his entire life for this moment. Like most humans of his generation, he had grown up knowing that war with the aliens was inevitable. "Sir, the fleet is reporting ready for combat operations. All vessels are equipped with the new systems Dr. Foster's team developed." Morrison looked at the specifications for the weapons they would carry. To alien sensors, they would appear to be crude kinetic weapons and basic energy cannons. The aliens would never suspect that each weapon incorporated 20 years of human innovation specifically designed to counter Galactic Confederation technology. "Ryan, what do you think of our chances?" Hayes looked at the tactical display showing the massive alien fleet gathering at the system's edge. "Sir, if this was a conventional engagement using standard tactics, we'd be destroyed in minutes." Morrison nodded. "Good thing we don't fight conventional wars." The young officer smiled. "No, sir, we don't." Throughout the Sol system, millions of humans prepared for the coming battle. Unlike the aliens, who saw this as a police action against an upstart species, humanity understood what was really at stake. This was the moment that would determine whether humans remained trapped in their home system or became a major power in the galaxy. The preparation continued day and night. Weapons were distributed, personnel were moved to battle stations, and the final components of humanity's master plan were put into place. What the aliens interpreted as desperate defensive measures were actually the final steps in a trap that had been 20 years in the making. Admiral Bradley sent a message to all human forces throughout the system. Her words were simple, but carried the weight of humanity's entire future. They wanted to know what happens when you threaten Earth. Soon they're going to find out. The massive alien ship hung above Earth like a dark cloud that promised storms. Admiral Zexithara of the Valonian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the small blue planet with barely hidden disgust. These humans had been trouble from the moment they discovered faster-than-light travel 20 years ago. They spread through nearby systems like a disease, claiming worlds that belonged to older and wiser species. Now it was time to put them back in their place. The orbital station called New Geneva floated in space between Earth and the alien fleet. It was humanity's proudest achievement, a gleaming symbol of their reach into the stars. Today it would serve as the place where they learned their limits. Zexithara adjusted his ceremonial armor and prepared to deliver the message that would end human expansion forever. Captain Jake Morrison received the transmission request while drinking his morning coffee in the station's command center. The coffee was terrible, but it was human coffee, and that made it perfect. He looked at the communication panel and smiled when he saw the alien fleet's identification codes. They had finally come. Morrison was a simple man from Texas who had joined the Earth Defense Force when the aliens first made contact. He had spent 20 years learning about the galaxy's various species, their customs, their technologies, and, most importantly, their weaknesses. Every species in the galaxy had one thing in common. They had forgotten how to fight real wars. The communication channel opened and Admiral Zexithara appeared on the main screen. The alien was tall and thin with gray skin that looked like stone. His eyes were large and black, and when he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had never been told no. "Human Captain Morrison?" Zexithara began. his translator making his words sound cold and mechanical. "I am Admiral Zexathera, representing the Galactic Confederation. I come bearing an ultimatum for your species." Morrison leaned back in his chair and took another sip of coffee. "Well, Admiral, that sounds serious. Let me guess. Surrender or die?" The alien's face showed surprise. He had expected fear, panic, desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, this human seemed almost amused. "Your casual attitude is inappropriate, Captain. I represent 7 star-spanning civilizations with the combined power to destroy worlds." "7, huh?" Morrison scratched his chin. "That's a nice round number. Very organized of you." Zexthera's hands clenched into fists. These humans were even more primitive than he had thought. Did they not understand the gravity of their situation? "Captain Morrison, I will state the terms once. Humanity will surrender all territorial claims beyond your home system. You will submit to Galactic Confederation oversight. You will cease all expansion and return to your planet. If you refuse these terms, we will use force to ensure compliance." Morrison set down his coffee cup and looked directly at the alien admiral. His expression had not changed, but something in his eyes made Zexathera step backward. "Admiral, can I ask you something?" "What?" "How many wars has your species fought?" The question caught Zexathera off guard. "Wars? The Valonian Empire has been at peace for over 3,000 years. We are a civilized species." Morrison nodded slowly. 3,000 years of peace. That's impressive. How about the other 6 species in your confederation? The galaxy has been stable for millennia. We have moved beyond such primitive concepts as warfare. We settle disputes through diplomacy and economic pressure. "Right," Morrison said, and his smile grew wider. "Admiral, I want you to know that we appreciate you coming all this way to deliver your ultimatum in person. It shows real class. But I have to tell you something about humans that your intelligence reports might have missed." Zexathera waited, his confidence beginning to waver for reasons he could not explain. Morrison stood up and walked closer to the screen. "We've been fighting wars on this planet for our entire history, not little disputes or economic sanctions, real wars where millions die and entire civilizations fall. We've perfected every aspect of warfare from strategy to logistics to the psychology of killing. In the last century alone, we've fought 2 global conflicts that reshaped our entire world." The alien admiral's large black eyes grew even wider. "Now you come here representing 7 peaceful species who haven't fought a real war in thousands of years, and you want to threaten the one species that's never stopped fighting?" Morrison laughed, and the sound made every alien on the bridge step backward. "Admiral, with all due respect, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." Zexathera tried to regain his composure. "Your primitive weapons are no match for our technology. We have energy shields, plasma cannons, faster-than-light travel." "Yeah, we have all that stuff too," Morrison interrupted. "Funny thing about technology. It's just tools. What matters is who's using them. You've got a hammer, we've got a hammer. Difference is we actually know how to swing it." The alien admiral looked around at his bridge crew. They all seemed as confused as he felt. This was not going according to plan. The humans were supposed to be terrified. They should be begging for mercy, offering tribute, accepting servitude. Instead, this captain seemed almost happy about the situation. "Captain Morrison," Zexathera said, trying one more time to sound authoritative, "you have 48 hours to consider our terms. After that, we will begin military action to force compliance." Morrison picked up his coffee cup and drained it. "Admiral, You don't seem to understand. We're not going to consider anything. We accept your declaration of war. The only question is, when do you want to start? The transmission ended with Morrison smiling directly at the camera. Zexathara stared at the blank screen for several minutes, trying to process what had just happened. His tactical officer approached cautiously. "Admiral, should we begin deployment for the attack?" Zexathara nodded slowly. "Send word to the other fleets. Tell them the humans have refused our terms. We proceed with the original plan." As the alien fleet began to move into attack positions, Morrison opened a channel to Earth Defense Command. Admiral Lisa Bradley appeared on screen, her gray hair pulled back in a military bun, her eyes sharp with intelligence. "Jake, I saw the transmission. How did they take it?" Morrison grinned. "Like expected, ma'am. They have no idea what they just walked into. 7 species that haven't fought a war in thousands of years, coming after the one species that's never stopped perfecting the art." Bradley nodded. "All stations are reporting ready. The trap is set." "Good. Lisa, can I ask you something?" "What?" Morrison looked out at the alien fleet positioning itself for attack. "Do you think they really believe their own propaganda about being civilized and advanced?" Bradley followed his gaze to the enemy ships. "I think they've been comfortable for so long they've forgotten what real danger looks like. They're about to get reminded." "Should we feel bad about it?" Admiral Bradley was quiet for a moment, then shook her head. "Jake, they came to our home and told us to surrender or die. They made the choice. We're just going to help them live with the consequences." The communication ended, and Morrison looked around the command center. His crew was working with calm efficiency, preparing for what was coming. No panic, no fear, just soldiers doing their job. They had been preparing for this day since first contact 20 years ago. The galaxy wanted to test humanity's resolve. Soon they would learn what humans did when someone threatened their home.